I'm here with artist Myles Wohl, who joins me on UD Live for a behind the scenes look at the Marvel Platinum trading card set. Miles, thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here.
Miles, for you, what was it like just getting the call or email that your artwork was going to be featured in the Marvel Platinum trading card set?
Yeah, when I was asked to do some of the core set art for Marvel Platinum, it was a dream come true. Like I said, I collected cards back in the '90s and went to conventions and got them signed by my favorite artists and stuff. And those they really inspired me as a kid. And honestly, they were a great escape from sometimes painful reality of being a teenager in the world. So as an adult, there's nothing I wanted more than to be a part of that world and create art that can hopefully inspire others and other kids to either become artists or provide an escape for them, or even for adults who experience that same thing that I did to kind of connect with me, across the world, even seeing my art. It's a tremendous opportunity.
How would you describe your art style or how it was implemented into the trading card set?
I would describe my art style as imaginative realism. I'm not sure who coined that phrase originally, but it's been around
Yeah.
for a while. And what it is just a combination of classical painting techniques, in my case, oil painting, mixed with more modern, fantastical subjects, such as in this case, comic book characters.
The art department mentioned that you started out as a sketch artist and did sketches in oil painting, which is actually something that's quite rare.
Yeah, it's something I had to work my way up to, quite honestly. I started doing sketch cards several years ago with Upper Deck. And at the time, I had just started painting in oils, but I wasn't quite comfortable enough to really pull that into the sketch card work and do so many cards in oils. So I was working in the traditional way with inks and colored pencils and so on, as you would typically see comic book work done. And then later on, I began to bring my brushes into some acrylic work and some watercolor work in the background before I felt comfortable enough to say, all right, the rest of my work is done in oils. Everything else I'm doing for all my clients and commissions. So let me bring that into sketch cards as well and kind of keep my look the same. And also, quite honestly, to give people the chance to open up a pack and just get an oil painted sketch card is something that I thought would be really cool because a lot of people don't really get the chance to get an oil painting or ever own an oil painting in real life. It might be something you see in a museum. To be able to open a pack and get an original piece of art that's an oil painting, I thought that would be really cool. As a kid, I think I would have lost my mind. Just to get any sketch in a pack of cards would have been phenomenal back when I was collecting, because I don't think that was a thing that happened back then. But to get an oil painting would have been mind blowing because it's just not something you can get. And it's really kind of rare even in the comic industry
Mhm.
to see people working in oils, probably because of the deadlines. So to be able to provide that and see people and talk to people who have opened them in packs and talk about how excited they are and inspired, it means a lot and it's amazing.
You mentioned that you were huge Marvel fans. For you, what were some of the characters that you were most excited to see in the set?
Well, I love the mutants and the spider characters. So I grew up a huge X-Men fan with Wolverine and Magneto as my all-time favorites. So when I saw the option to paint Sabretooth, I jumped at the chance because that's a major Wolverine villain. I remember
Mhm.
collecting those comics and waiting to see those face-offs in the comics. So being able to attack that and paint Sabretooth was a huge dream come true. Uh, and I also love painting the villains. So getting the chance to paint Kang was a lot of fun as well. When you're thinking about villains, usually you kind of want to, when you're really thinking about any character, you want to set a mood. What's the mood for this character and what's the emotion you want to convey? And that can be different from villain to villain. Some villains are more dominant and thoughtful. Some villains are more aggressive, like Sabretooth. And so that's the first thing I'm thinking of when I'm trying to compose a sketch is, am I going for a more aggressive approach? Or am I going for more subtle dominance, kind of with Kang? With Kang, it's just about how kind of imposing and how much smarter he is than you. And that's
Mhm.
kind of the look that I was going for with my Kang painting. Whereas Sabretooth was very much kind of the opposite, side of the spectrum. He was very much in attack mode.
So let's talk about your process. How does this start, and what's the finished product look like?
Yeah, the process starts with a bunch of small, very small pencil drawings called thumbnails. And I'll do a series of them, could be 8, 10, 12, could be 20 until I find a composition that I really like. And it kind of sets the mood that I'm going for. And then once I have that, I'll take two or three of those and I'll work them up into, a larger sketch. And then I'll usually settle on the one I like. And that's the one I wind up sending in to the art director. And once that's approved, then we're kind of off to the races in a very sort of classic approach to oil painting, where I'm looking to gather reference and get realistic lighting in order to create a final drawing, which I will then transfer to the board and start the painting process. And it sounds like a lot, and it is. I mean, quite honestly, half of the or more of the painting process is everything before you even pick up that first brush. And it's like building the foundation of a house. If that's wrong, it doesn't matter how great your brush strokes are, they're going to fall apart. And so you've got to get that core of it right to really create that illusion of three dimensions on a two-dimensional surface.
For you, what were some of the challenges that maybe you face as an artist in this set?
Honestly, doing justice to the characters that I grew up, loving. So that was really the largest challenge for me is I wanted to make sure that I gave them their proper due, portrayed them in the way that made sense for those characters. And so, really, for me, the most pressure was that very beginning of the process where I'm working out the thumbnails and working on that very first compositional setup for the painting. To me, that was the hardest part. After that, you kind of fall into the rest of the process that you're used to doing as a painter. It's like, okay, I know what I'm painting now. Now I'm going to go and gather reference, shoot reference of myself, of little figures, whatever kind of reference I can take, and compile that and work on a refined sketch and paint it, and just kind of follow the steps of the process that I've learned and been doing for so many years. But the hardest parts in some cases is that initial idea and that design that you really want to hit the mark.
What can collectors expect from the characters that you've painted in the set?
I think they can expect to see their favorite characters maybe painted in a way that's different from the way they see them in the comic book pages. Rather than the line art and cell shading that you would typically get
Mhm.
in a comic book. I'm going for something that's more based heavily on realism and then the classic oil painting approach. So, hopefully they will enjoy that. No matter how it's created, at the end of the day, what matters is do people love it? And I hope that they do. You pour a bit of your soul into every creation. It's like your children. You're kind of setting them out there into the world and to become whatever they're meant to be. So hopefully that's something that inspires people and kindles their love for the characters. And hopefully I get to hear that from them and see them at conventions and we can nerd out and talk comics.
All right. Thank you, artist Myles Wohl, for joining us on UD Live. We're excited to see how those cards turned out, and I'm really looking forward to it.
My pleasure. I had a blast contributing to this set, and I can't wait to hear what the fans think.